Alright, I'm just gonna test to see if the audio is fine. Alright, I'm just gonna test to see if the audio is fine. Okay, so let's get started. So this we will be starting on ES chart. Just gonna test. Okay, so for ES, what am I expecting next week? Okay, I'll be focusing on the 50% of this week here. Okay, so just gonna annotate it down. Consequent encroachment of the weekly week. Okay. Right. And visibility days. Okay. So heading down to the low time frame. Right. So this week was really tough for equities, right? Because we had three down close candles on the weekly. So naturally this week, the previous week was going to be a consolidation. Okay. Very high likely. So what am I looking for next week, right? I think it's possible for price to trade back up into this area here, into the consequent encroachment of the weekly week, right? And then we resume lower. Okay. Right, so that is my bias for next week. So I'm still bearish. What changes the bias, right? If price is able to trade above the consequent encroachment of the weekly week, then I will start to look for buy side. Okay, right now we're in a more like a 50-50 scenario because from this swing high to this swing low, we are right in about 2 to 2.5. So usually in this range, reversals and retracements take place, right? As you can see over here. And if it wants to give another opportunity, then you look for 1 to 1.5 range for an entry into the fourth standard deviation. Okay, usually that's the case, but we shall see how it plays out next week. So next week will be the last week of August, right? And after that, I think we would be able to see clearer price action as compared to August, right? As you can see here, it's quite choppy, not clear in terms of entries wise and stop loss placements. Okay, you have to dig really deep to really look for one, but so far that's August for you. So next week we have high impact news on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think those 3 days will be the highest probability for trading. So I'm gonna focus on that 3 days, and then I'm gonna see how Monday plays out, right? So best case scenario, I would like to see Monday consolidate or starts to grind up into this um, consequent encroachment of the weekly week, or maybe back into this daily balanced price range. That would be enough, right? I want to see resistance right here. Okay, as long as there is some sort of resistance, then I'll look to short into this low here. So it would be this week's low, okay, into the consequent encroachment of the monthly BC, right? And I want to see if it can overextend down into this area here, the sell side here, and this inefficiency down here. Okay, that is what I'm looking for. Moving forward to next week, I am still bearish, right? And yes, let's move on to Nasdaq. Thank you. All right, so Nasdaq, same thing here. Let's start off with the weekly chart. We have the consequent encroachment of the weekly wick as well. 15195.25, 95.25. Okay, oops. Right, so Nasdaq on daily, right, as you can see, if you compare this high and this high, Nasdaq made a higher high, right? So leadership in bearishness is ES. So if I was to short, I would much prefer to short ES. However, there is a clearer objective for Nasdaq, which is right here, the relative equal lows, which is also another monthly fair value gap, right? Which coincides with the BPR right down here, the blue shaded area, and the breaker. So moving to next week, I would like to see um, NQ trading back up into this bearish order block, right? So I'm gonna note down the opening price of this order block as well. Daily bearish order block. Okay, right. So let's see if NQ can trade up into this area or maybe the mean threshold of this order block here. Okay, I think I'm gonna change the levels here. So I'm gonna use this order block 151.7, 151.57, 4.5, 57. Okay, right. So what invalidates NQ? If price can close above on a daily basis, price can close above the mean threshold of the daily order block and the consequent encroachment of the weekly wick, right? If it starts to trade above it and then using this as support, then I will look for buy stops, right? So far, NQ similar to Nasdaq, I mean similar to ES, is trading within 2 to 2.5 standard deviations. Okay, so um, I do expect somewhat of a choppiness since we're heading into the last week of August, but we shall see. Right, next week. Yep, same for ES. I would like to see price trade into this area and then reject lower to take out the sell stops here. Okay, so still bearish on NQ and ES. Okay, so let's take a look at the 4 hours to see if there's anything that can be utilized. Right, so it would just be covering up all these inefficiencies here, right? That was presented on Thursday. Right, let's take a look at hourly chart. Right. So if you switch to regular trading hours and then you go down to the 15 minutes, you will see that these two levels are very close to the breaker. Okay. So what's the breaker? The breaker is this down close candle here. Right? Why is that a breaker? Swing high, swing low, higher high, broke the lows here. Okay. So if you were to use the current dealing range, right, these levels would all be in premium. And if you want to slap on the OTE, that would be within the OTE as well, right? So it can trade up to these levels here, but I want to see a strong rejection down. Okay, that is what I'm anticipating. Right. If you get back to ES, it's the same thing. High, low, higher high, broke the low that made this high. So this down close candle here is your breaker, which is within the daily balanced price range. And if you use the current dealing range, that would be within the OTE as well. Okay, so which is why I'm still anticipating bearish prices. Okay, and yes, let's move on to DXY. Right, for DXY on a weekly chart, right, obviously you're trading all the way up into this area here. This would most likely be the draw on liquidity, right? Mentioned since this candle closure, since the closure of this candle here, 10th of July. Not 10, but 17th July. Okay, so right now I'm going to shift this up. This is going to be the balanced price range, right? You want to see support for dollar right here. Why? Because it has traded through a fair value gap that has taken out the lows here, right? So price went up here, use this fair value gap here, send price lower, taking out the lows down here. So once it trades up and closes above, I want to see it support, right? Stepping stone to higher time frame objectives. That would be this level here, 105.896. That would be the monthly fair value gap right here. Okay, and because the dollar is bullish, I'm expecting this fair value gap to be disrespected, right? I want to see price trade through. So overall, since January 2023, we are in a consolidation, and right now down here we have the manipulation. Okay, so with this manipulation, I am suggesting that price is going to distribute or expand higher. Okay, that is what I'm anticipating here. And if that's the case, then we might not get what we have. We might not get the seasonal tendencies of equities finding a low in September/October if dollar is gonna rally hard from this consolidation here. Okay, so if you use the daily chart, the manipulation, it's this leg down. So you use this swing low to this swing high here and project it out. That would be around 1 to 1.5, 2.5 is up here. Okay, 2 and 2.5 is up here, and then you have the fourth standard deviation and the 5. So if price is truly bullish, I would expect price to take out the highs here into the monthly fair value gap, trading all the way back up into this area here. Okay, and then you find something within this 1 to 1.5. Okay, and then you long entry here, and then you long to take out the fourth or this high here. I think that is what is going to happen. So we shall see if that plays out. Okay, so that's my dollar bias for the rest of the year, right? But let's see if we can get there. So moving on, we have Bitcoin and gold. Gold and Bitcoin. Let's start off with gold. Right, so since it has started to show bearish order flow, I would be discarding this idea right here. Okay, unless of course dollar makes a U-turn, right? which I think it's not very likely. So for gold, because it has taken out the buy side liquidity, relative equal highs, stepped through it, came back down, respecting this bearish fair value gap right here. Okay, right now I think we seek this low here. Right, we have another bearish fair value gap right here. Okay, so I think for gold, we would be anticipating lower prices, and I want to see speed when price close below this BPR right here. Okay, the blue shaded area. So yeah, I think this low is going to be taken out, and then you see, I want to see if price shows any form of displacement below the low here. If there is displacement, then obviously we would look for this lows here, and eventually on the monthly time frame, trading, I think I can use 3 month. Yeah, 3 month. We have a fair value gap down here below the lows here. Okay, so that is for gold. If it correlates with, if dollar is to rally. Okay, that is what I'm looking at for gold. Right. So another interesting thing is that we have reached into a quarterly fair value gap right here. So I want to see this disrespected, right? Because price was unable to close above the mean threshold. The consequent encroachment of the wick right here, right? As you can see, the closure is here, right about 25% of the wick, right? And that's for gold. Let's head over to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, some tricky right here. Obviously I was looking for 32, right? But if you take a look at the futures charts, I think BTC Bitcoin futures by CME, right? So the futures chart right here, it smashed 32. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is going to be a contributing factor to the next price action. The next expansion, right? So if I were to use the Bitcoin, right? The futures chart right here, it took out this monthly CB here, right? So from this, you can see that it has smashed above it, and then you see a strong rejection down. So I think moving forward, I would much prefer to use the Bitcoin futures on CME. Okay, but I think I'll just toggle back and forth. Okay, so for Bitcoin, what you have here is a trade up into the CB monthly time frame, into the CB that is um, lined up nicely with the breaker here, right? Swing high, swing low, higher high, broke the lows that made this high. This makes it a breaker, bearish breaker. So I think as long as price close below, I think the consequent encroachment of this wick here, then I think we advance forward into the lows here. Okay, we have a breaker here, I think, yep, here, around about 9-10k. So I think that's going to give some form of reaction before I think eventually we take out the lows here, right? Relative equal lows around 3000. So this is for the monthly chart. If you take a look at the weekly, right? So yeah, doesn't look too good for Bitcoin on the weekly, right? So let's go back to the Bitstamp chart here. Right, so let's see if after it takes out this low and it goes up, but I'll be borrowing ICT's analysis here. All right, if it closes below this consequent encroachment, then he's expecting price to expand lower, but as long as it stays above it, I think there is a chance that this could be turtle soup set up again, three drives higher. Okay, that is possible as well, right? Because we are trading into a that low would be the quarterly fair value gap right here. Okay, so that's for Bitcoin. Just gonna remove it. I'm gonna draw it again later. Right. So next up, we have individual stocks. Let's start off with Tesla as usual. Tesla. Right. So for Tesla, initially I was expecting 314. Okay, but if equities was to top, then I'll be looking for this low to be taken out. Right. But so far, I want to see if this breaker holds. Okay, this breaker, the low of this breaker, it's 185.43. So I would want to see price hold above this level here, and then I want to see if it can attack the highs up here. So far for Tesla, it's still bullish. Okay, what invalidates it is if price closes below the breaker. Okay, if price closes below the breaker, I think we're gonna expand down, take out this low here, and then once it takes out this low, I want to see speed. Okay, down into this level here, this low, and I think the nearest equal lows it's right here, about $90 for Tesla. All right, so if you use the measurements here, you can see that we traded back all the way up into the 1 to 1.5, and if you use the short term measurement, that would be around 2 to 2.5, and yet again we see some form of retracements down here. Okay, usually you want to find something within 1 to 1.5 for a long, but if you take a look at the price action right here, it's not respecting this range here, right? And it has made a higher high with this swing low here, so there will be a breaker within this range here on the daily chart, right? I'm just not going to zoom in because it's too, I mean, there's too much gap. Okay, so what changes this current short-term bearish narrative would be if price can close above this order block right here. Okay, if price can close above this up close candle, then I think 134 it's good to go, right? So far it's respecting this balanced price range. Okay, but I would much prefer to see another dip lower into this blue shaded area and then resume higher. That's for Tesla. Okay, let's move on to Palantir. Right, so for Palantir, same thing here. As you can see, this is a repeating phenomenon. So using this measuring price, using this measurement, okay, we can see that price came back up into 2.5, closing above 2.5, so it's going to go for 4. So we're going to find support to be within this range here, and then we got it. We got a BPR, then price step into the fourth standard deviation and into the breaker right here on the higher time frame. Right, so why is this a breaker? I think it's on a monthly. No, it's on a weekly. So why is this a breaker? It's the lowest down close candle that made the low here, which took out the highs here and here, right? So you can see high, low, higher high, and then another higher high. And then price broke down, and this was the down close candle with the lowest close. So this naturally it's a breaker. Okay, so when it trades up all the way up here, rejects strongly because it's a high time frame breaker here. So this form of reaction is expected. Okay, so moving on, what I want to see from Palantir, right? So far, it's I would think it's consolidating. It hasn't taken out this low yet, right? But based on this price movements, I'm not really that bullish on Palantir, but I want to see what happens when price trades down into this level here, right? But because I'm bearish on equities, then naturally for individual stocks, I'm going to be bearish on them as well. Right, so moving on, we have Meta. Meta. Right, so Meta. Alright, so for Meta, I am still bullish, right, as long as price remain above this BPR right here, as I've said many weeks ago, but because I'm charting on the monthly for Meta, it's going to take a while to play out. So best case scenario that it doesn't leave this range here. This is another BPR, right? Best case scenario, it doesn't leave this BPR, and then it steps up into the all-time highs for Meta. And I think that should be the top. So how do you measure Meta? Same thing here. Use the weekly chart, right? Low and high. Traded back up all the way above 1.5, right? So I'm expecting this area to be your so-called support, right? And then I want to see price rally above into this 2 to 2.5, and the nicest level that I can find is this all-time high here. There's lots of stop orders above. Okay, if it just runs above this equal highs and it doesn't make an all-time high, that's possible as well, and that would be bullish for Meta in the long term, but it's going to take a beating in the short term, right? So this is for Meta. Okay, let's move on to I think the last US equities here. Let's choose Nvidia. Right, so Nvidia finally hit the target that I was looking for many months. So since the closure of this candle right here on 12th of June, I was looking for fourth standard deviation, right? Same thing here, closing above 2.5, came back down using this area as support, right? So we have a PD array here, BC. So price traded all the way back up into the fourth and then rejection, right? So this is the projections and the measurements that I was able to find the top for Meta. I mean, not Meta, but Nvidia. So as you can see, the weekly closure here, it retraced more than 50% of the entire weekly range. So for this price action, I'm expecting either a consolidation or retracement reversal, right? So what's it going to reverse into? I am looking at this equal lows down here, which would be right around 400, and I want to see if we can smash lower, right? Because it's reaching all-time highs, so retracements is going to match the speed that it had going up. Okay, so that's for Meta. I mean, not Meta, but that's for Nvidia. So if it's going to match the speed, then I'll be looking at these areas here for retracements into, and I want to see if it wants to go even higher. That would be um, within this area here. Okay, that's a huge inefficiency right here to be filled, so it could definitely come back down here, right? And then we'll evaluate again for Nvidia. Right, so let's head over to the Chinese markets. Start off with HSI. Right, so as anticipated, HSI performed exactly to script. So right now, what I'm looking at is this bearish fair value gap here. Okay, and that's within the BPR as well. So why am I using this BPR? Same thing. It was used to send the price lower to take out the sell stops, and then traded back up. It was used to take out the highs. So this would be your support slash resistance. As you can see right here on this candle itself, price traded back up into almost the mid level, right? But failed to do so. So I'm expecting next week trade up back into the mid level here and then collapse. So what am I expecting for HSI is if price can, if price takes out this low, I want to see speed below this low here. Okay, because it has been consolidating, right? If this is not, um, if this swing high here was the manipulation for this consolidation, then expansion is, I'm expecting a fast expansion, right? And at the same time, we use this dealing range here. We are right about very near to equilibrium, right? So by theory, if you're bearish and it's near the equilibrium, you'll see parabolic runs to the side that its order flow is in. So right now it's in bearish order flow, and then you look at this equilibrium here. So what I do not want to see for HSI is price closing above this fair value gap or fully filling this fair value gap. Okay, I want to see some gaps left untapped, right? And that will indicate the strength of the bearishness. Okay, that's for HSI. So I think I can use an example here, right? So when price trades above, right, into equilibrium, and it comes back down, taps it, and then here one more time for a entry, right? Mean threshold of this wick here, you'll see parabolic runs to the objectives. Okay, so same thing here. That's what I'm expecting here. Okay, price comes up, gives the smart money the entry, and then I want to see it run aggressive towards the um, the sell stops here, and then the sell stops here as well. Okay, so if you use this swing high and this swing low as your measurement, 1 to 1.5, that will be below the swing low here. So this is definitely going to be attacked if price is bearish, right, without any manual interventions. And 2 to 2.5, that would be below the swing low here. Okay, and just right below 2.5, that's your monthly volume imbalance right here. Okay, there are some inefficiencies below that has not been completely filled just yet, right? So it could want to completely fill up this, and then we have this volume balance right below. So that's my target for HSI. Okay, right. So because I'm bearish on HSI, naturally the Chinese companies, I will have the same bias as well. So let's jump into Alibaba. Okay, for Alibaba here, same thing, same measurements, 2 to 2.5, crashed. Okay, so right now, what I want to see is price respecting this bearish order block. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight it, the opening price of this order block here. Weekly bearish order block. Okay, so I want to see price respect this level here. It's now trading into the bullish order block right down here. As you can see the lows. So still in consolidation within this daily range for how many months? 3 months already, right? So here to here, right? So an offer into a premium, which would be the opening price of this order block here. I would like to see price smash through this balanced price range, right? So what is the balanced price range? Price traded down, and then now it has closed up above. So technically this is supposed to be a support, but because I am bearish, I want to see this run through. Okay, and once it does that, I want to see price trade down with speed, as you can see right here, to take out the lows here, here, and eventually down into this relative equal lows. That's for Baba. Okay, and let's move on to JD. Oh, thanks. Okay, so down into this area here, um, obviously I'm bearish on JD, right? You can see this high, higher high, low that made the high here. So this naturally is your breaker, right? Price comes up into it, tags it, sells off. Okay, so now because we have this bearish fair value gap right here, I would like to see price trade back up into this area here to offer a entry short into this low here and into this blue shaded area. So what is this low in this blue shaded area? This low is the nearest swing low to this low. So I think it's going to overextend, and then we have a volume imbalance right down here, which coincides with the blue shaded area. So the blue shaded area is the monthly balanced price range here, right? So as you can see, price use this area to take out the lows, and when it comes back up, price use this area here again to push the price higher, comes back down, right? Takes out this low here, trades back up. As you can see, price is consolidating within this BPR again, and then sending the price higher. Okay, so I think this area it's sensitive, so that's what I'm expecting price to trade into, and maybe ultimately we might take out the lows here, right? But as you have experienced with Twitter, before it even reached those lows, it was delisted, right? Privatized, right? So let's see if that happens to Chinese companies, right? So let me just show you what happened on Twitter, right? So for Twitter, okay, I'm gonna redraw the chart, right? So this is the equal lows that we're looking at, right? And price took out the buy side, smashed lower into this low here, okay? So this is a shift in market structure, and then we're bearish here. So price is coming back up into this three up close candles, which is on the order block as well. And within the order block, there is this fair value gap. Within the current dealing range, that would be in premium. Okay, so what I was expecting is it coming back up into this area here, this fair value gap, and then smash down to take out the lows, right? But it was delisted right here, right? So this could happen, right? This could happen to the Chinese companies, right? I'm not saying it will, but it could, right? So just keep that at the back of your head and see if it happens. Right, so moving on from JD, we have Tencent. What's 10 cent for NASDAQ. It's in the OTC. Right, so right, messy chart. I'm not interested. Let's move on to new. Let's move on to new. Right here, right, as you have anticipated, and as I've mentioned before, new. This area is sensitive, as we have seen right here. The close, right? Take a look at it, and then we have the breaker here as well. Okay, so if it's gonna be bullish, this must offer strong rejection to send the price higher. But judging from the speed, as it's matching the speed here, this is it's not very clear. Okay, I'll just put it that way. Right here, you have your breaker with the volume balance reached up into here, right? And if you use the measurements, 1.5, almost hitting 2, right? But 1.5 it is. It never closed above 1.5, right? See the candle closures, yes, it traded and opened above, but it did not close above, right? So same thing with this volume balance as well. Price never closed above the volume balance, it just opened above. Okay, so that's very crucial to watch. Open, high, low, close for candlesticks. Okay, so if I'm bullish for new, I do not want to see the mean threshold of this breaker to be traded through on a closing basis. And personally, I don't even want to see this BPR be traded through. Okay, that would be bearish for new if it does so. And if new it's bearish, and I think it should due to HSI, then we will be looking at the inefficiencies below the swing low here, which will bring us to about $5. And below $5, we have this price actions down here. Okay, I think I would use no, just too messy down here, but I wouldn't use anything but except for this inefficiency for targets. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a horizontal line across and see if we get there when the time comes. Okay, so this is for new, right? So other than this, I think we're almost done with Chinese companies, right? Let me just go through my mind to see if there's any other Chinese companies left that is interesting. Alright, I think that's it for the Chinese market. So I'm just gonna go back to equities to see if there's anything that I missed out. Right, so do keep in mind, if the seasonals is gonna play out, which means we're gonna find a low in September/October. If it's gonna play out, I want to see price hold within this weekly BPR. Wait a second. How is this? Oh, it's shifted. Okay, here. Okay, I want to see price hold within this weekly BPR. Right, nothing below it. If it starts to trade below it, then obviously this lows and this low is next. So I want to see this support. Same thing, why it's at the support, it has used these levels multiple times, right? And then finally closing up above. So coming back down into this BPR is not a surprise. Can use this for support attack the all-time highs. Okay, if that is if the seasonals play out, right? If the seasonals doesn't play out, then we will be going through the BPR. Okay, that's for ES, right? On the higher time frames, I can see right here, low, high, lower low, closing above the low that made this. I mean, closing above the high that made this low. Here is a breaker. So within this breaker, there's lots of inefficiencies down here, and then we have a balanced price range here, right? So I am observing that with I'm strongly and cautiously observing this area here, right? So for NQ, same thing here, but just that NQ is slightly more bullish. Okay, so wait a minute, why has the level shifted? Okay, so we have the BPR here, and then you see this breaker. Same thing, low, high, low, low, high that made this low here, closing above, and then we have the BPR here as well. This fair value gap was used to send the price to take out the lows here. So coming back down all the way into this level here, it's still bullish. It is still bullish, right? But of course, short term wise, you can trade the move down into this level here. Okay, so this area is what I'm observing, and this, if it is to remain bullish, then it might not even need to reach into this BPR or the breaker. Okay, it might just want to utilize this BC here. Okay, so you have the relative equal lows on the daily, and then the weekly BC, and then as well as the monthly BC right here as well, right? This was the fair value gap that took out this swing high on the monthly time frame. So I expect this to be sensitive. Okay, so that's it for this video, right? This week's video, and I'll see you again next week. Okay, all right. If you find this helpful, insightful, do leave a like, and if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments section. Okay, I'll only answer questions that are related to the markets, right? No, not markets in terms of analysis. Okay, nothing about what do you call it? Um, Nothing personal. No personal. I won't answer anything that relates to personal. Okay, and that's it for this live stream. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll see you again. Signing out.